thing about the vitamin K. So I hear a lot of parents talk to me on Instagram about how they were very heavily bullied about it because they are told by the pediatrician, by the hospital, that if they don't take it, they're going to have CPS called on them, that their child will die from bleeding out. There is a huge fear mongering around not taking that, and the hospitals are very, very. The doctors in the hospitals will be very mean towards the parents that decide not to take it. And then, God forbid, something happen and your child does have issues with bleeding or something like that, they immediately say if they didn't have the vitamin K, that was the reason. Yeah, it's because they didn't take the vitamin K that their child had, maybe a brain, say they had a traumatic head birth or whatever, or there was something that happened during the birthing process that caused a brain bleed or something like that. Say that the parent didn't know about and they didn't take the vitamin K. Okay, so that's like a rare thing that happens, and it does happen. And I'm not saying that there's not things that can happen in birth that cause, injury to babies, but they immediately throw it and cause great amount of distress and guilt on the parent. And say, it's because you didn't do what we said. And instead of actually knowing the true cause, it's immediately because they didn't take the medication.
Yeah, right.
That they were going to inject. I mean, it's just absurd. Like, why would you do that to someone? And they're already dealing with a stressful situation. And I mean, in the NICU, I even saw that during people that would have home births, that sometimes things would happen that went wrong. It was just so ugly the way those parents were treated. I mean, It was awful. And it was just like we talk about, yes, but birth is not an emergency always. Very rare is it an emergency. And we've made it an emergency,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said early, when I introduced this podcast, some of my friends that work in OB might debate about this, but after this last 3 years, we have just really, really woken up to, I just don't think for most routine deliveries of babies, it doesn't need to be in a hospital. And I think a hospital is the most dangerous place you can be. Mm-hmm. And 70 years ago, most people were born at home without complication. I know we're told in school and stuff about infant mortality and all this. Well, how many times do we have mortality or complications because we take a baby too early with C-section? We had that personally happen to us. My youngest son, they took him too early, because the VBAC thing. Well, we can't do VBACs, they're too dangerous. And now I think about that. VBAC, vaginal birth after C-section. You're telling me that there's an increased risk of the uterus to just blow up and explode after a C-section? Because you don't think this uterus heals like other scars do? Right. I mean, think about that. We bought that. And I get it. I mean, there's going to be some people that are thinking I'm crazy or.
Oh, yeah. But.
And no. Or what about, or I had an OB nurse say, well, I had to take care of a person. If you never had to take care of a person with uterine bleeding, have you? And I'm like, no, I haven't. But how many times were those uterine bleedings caused by giving oxytocin?
Good.
I mean, seriously.
That was good.
You got to ask the question.